We have no choice. Hive leader Dilt said gravely, we must unleash the humans. Unleash the humans? Riven folded all four of his arms across his chest. You say that like there's some weapon we can wield. The humans are weaker than we are, and they aren't on our side. The humans are pariahs, the Hive leader told him. Outcasts with no rights in the eyes of the Federal Union of Worlds, like us. If anyone will help, it will be them. What can the humans do? Riven's antenna twitched. Riven was a Zist, a biped with 4 arms, 2 wings, and a green exoskeleton. They can't even protect themselves from bandits. Roving gangs of outlaws were a constant problem in the frontier. The frontier was a stretch of space on the edges of civilization. It was far from the core worlds of the Fed. There was no law here, no order. Just a handful of barely habitable worlds colonized by the outcasts and the desperate. No bandit has dared attack the humans in half a revolution, Dilt disagreed. Why do you think our colonies are being hit so often? The bandits are afraid of the humans now. They fear the lead dealer. There is no such person. Riven's wings fluttered. The lead dealer was a myth, a lone human dressed all in black. It was said he traveled the frontier in a ghost ship, killing all who dared to attack his species. The lead dealer was taller than a grotto, stronger than a Zist, and meaner than a Scarlac. He had no name, no origin, and no weakness. It was said he could not die, that he could summon thunder from his hands. It was said he'd killed 1,000 men with tiny bits of metal. Maybe not, the Hive leader admitted, but the weapon he's rumored to use, the lead throwers, those are real, kinetic weapons, chemically propelled. Powerful enough to kill a Grodo noble, and they have no power source. The nullifiers of the feds can't shut them down. Riven cocked his head. If these human weapons are so good, why aren't we getting some ourselves? We're working on it, Hive leader Dilt assured him. The human planet is far away, and they travel slowly. There's a Phylaxian weapon dealer selling lead throwers on the black market, but stock is limited, and the Syndicate has claimed most of them. Zoldar is trying to get some to us, but it will take time. We don't have time. 2 of Riven's hands tightened on the breaking sticks at his belt. Breaking sticks were rods of tungsten. Each of them weighed over 300 kilograms. Only Zist and Grottos were strong enough to wield them. The Syndicate is coming. We have to flee. Flee where? Dilt demanded. If we go back to the Fed space, we will be taken. If we go to another colony, the Syndicate will follow. He shook his head. No, Riven, we must fight. We have to show the Syndicate that taking us is not worth the cost. We can't do that. Riven's antenna lashed in frustration. I wish we could, Hive leader, but we can't. The feds are working with the Syndicate. They are too many, and they have warships and nullifiers. If we stay here, it will be the culling all over again. They will kill our leaders and enslave the rest. The males will wear explosive collars and work as miners or mercenaries. The females will be forced to lay, and their eggs will be eaten. I know. The elder Zis laid a hand on Riven's shoulder. That's why we need the humans. Riven's mandibles clacked. They cannot and will not help us. They can. The Hive leader spoke firmly. I know they can. Whether they will or not is another question. I need someone to convince them, Riven. Riven scented the hive leader. His pheromones spoke of desperation and apology? Oh no. Riven had wondered why Dilt had summoned him to his private chambers. He had wondered why Dilt had insisted on speaking with him alone. Hive leader. Riven's antenna quivered anxiously. You don't mean... Yes. Hive leader Dilt's hand tightened on Riven's shoulder. We need someone to unleash the humans on our enemies. I am assigning the task to you. Hive leader, Riven objected. Father, you've got the wrong guy. I don't know anything about humans. You've never failed a mission, Riven. Hive leader Dilt reminded him. I need the best, and the best is you. I'm the best soldier, Hive leader, Riven argued. That's got nothing to do with convincing people to do things. I'm not diplomatic. You should choose someone else. You only think that because you don't know humans, Dilt told him. Trust me, you're the right Zitz for the job. Riven cocked his head at the elder Zitz. I know that smell, Father. There's something you're not telling me. Many things, the hive leader admitted, most of which you won't believe. You'll understand when you meet our contact. 2 weeks later, Riven stood in front of a bar on a space station far from his colony. A sign above the entrance read, The Cosmic Cantina, in glowing pink letters. Riven squeezed all 4 of his breaking sticks for luck, then stepped inside. The bar was crowded, locals mostly, a few outlaws. Riven's cybernetics could always pick out outlaws because they didn't use ident badges. Humans and Zitz didn't use them because they weren't citizens, but everyone else without one was trying to hide their identity. Everyone was armed, but that was no surprise. Kentel Station was close to the frontier. You went armed, or you died. A female Zitz was flitting around the bar delivering food and drink. Very pretty, very close to the fertile cycle. Riven had to work to keep his antenna to himself. Riven's contact was the bartender, a fellow Zit, male. The barkeep was a veteran. There weren't many veteran Zit left, but Riven always knew his own. He carried himself with quiet confidence and had 4 different gun types strapped to himself in addition to his breaking sticks. An additional 4 gun-like objects were holstered next to his regular weapons. They didn't have a power source. Lead throwers, it seemed likely. The barkeep looked up at Riven's approach. He pointed at a stool and said, Have a seat. The human will be here soon. He poured Riven a drink. 10 minutes later, a pair of humans entered the cantina. One was female, a juvenile or a young adult. Blue pants, a red shirt, a long brown coat, a white hat with a wide brim. The girl was packing a plasma caster on one hip and a lead thrower on the other. Her eyes were bright, but there was an edge to her. She moved like someone who knew how to fight. The other human was the scariest thing Riven had ever seen. Eyes colder than the void and almost as dead. A long, lean frame. He dressed all in black, with a long black coat and a black hat with a wide brim. This one moved with lethal grace. Riven's cybernetics detected no weapons, but they did find a nullifier in the man's coat pocket. Not good. Nullifiers were restricted tech, usually only wielded by high-ranking feds. In recent years, some had appeared on the black market, but they were rare. A nullifier shut down every form of powered weaponry. Riven's guns were now useless. Some of the newer versions could be selective, letting the wielder exclude certain guns so his weapons still work. The Zitz wasn't sure if the human had the newer model, but it didn't matter. Riven could see the lead throwers on the man's hips. The way his jacket moved suggested he had another larger weapon hidden within. Everything about this human set Riven's instincts to screaming. The 2 humans strolled up to the bar. The tall male tipped his hat at the female zit along the way. They were only a few meters away by the time Ryven realized he'd been frozen motionless during the man's approach. The man in black tipped his hat at the barkeep. Farlow. Human? The zit nodded back. Whiskey? The man in black gave an affirmative grunt. The barkeep poured brown liquid into a tiny glass. The human downed it. So what's this about, Farlow? The female asked. It's not like you to ask for favors. There is a man who wanted to meet you. Farlow nodded towards Ryven. The man in black's eyes narrowed. His hive leader is a friend. Only his hive leader? The female human frowned at the barkeep. You don't know this guy yourself? He is the hive leader's son, Farlow told her. I assure you he's trustworthy. Okay. The girl nodded. Then she frowned. You sure we should be talking about this here? In front of... She gestured at a pair of Phylaxians sitting nearby. Short, hairy bipeds with 3 eyes and long fur. They were old. One of them had gray fur. The other had dyed his fur orange. Badly. The Phylaxians turned to look at the girl. One of them huffed. What's that supposed to mean? You're gossips, Drago, the girl told him. Don't even try to deny it. Yeah, the other Phylaxian laughed. You ain't wrong, Anita. We do like to talk. You won't talk about this, Farlow said firmly. He cut Drago off before he could speak. I mean it. If you spoil the deal, I'll let the human take you. What deal? The other Phylaxian demanded. All we know is you got some zits meeting with... Shut it. The tall human's voice was deep, rich, and cold. The Phylaxians fell silent. Farlow pointed at an empty table. I've set up a privacy field at that table. The man can explain the situation there. He pointed at the female zits delivering drinks. Gilia will be by to take her order. Ryven followed the girl and the man in black to the table. The man in black took the chair Ryven had been aiming for, the one that put his back to the wall and gave him a view of the whole bar. Ryven's antenna twitched, but he made himself settle for the chair across from the man. He would just have to trust Farlow the barkeep to watch his back. The girl scooted one of the other chairs so she could sit next to the taller, scarier human. The girl looked over the small remote in the center of the table. She picked it up and pressed a button. A ring of transparent yellow light shimmered into being around them. A privacy screen. All right, said the girl. First, introductions. I'm Anita. Who are you? My name is Ryven, said the Zist. I come from the Many Eggs colony on planet Turvan. Turvan? Anita nodded. I know that place. That's where the Faraway colony is. Yes, said Ryven. We trade with them sometimes. Okay. Anita clasped her hands and leaned forward. What's going on, Ryven from Many Eggs? Why do you have Farlow call us here? The human protocol, said Ryven. The what now? The girl frowned. Ryven sighed. Hive leader Dilt is very impressed with your species. He's convinced the other hive leaders. The protocol states that we should turn to you when there is an emergency we can't deal with ourselves. What kind of emergency? Anita asked. The Syndicate. Ryven paused as Gilia walked through the privacy screen. Anita and the man in black asked for burritos. Ryven asked for another drink. When the woman left, he continued, The Syndicate is coming for us. We need the humans to help us fight them off. The Syndicate? Anita frowned. Mr. Ryven, I think you're misunderstanding what it is we do here. What do you mean? Ryven said impatiently. Do you not represent the human colonies? Represent? Anita looked at the man in black. Then she looked at Ryven. Oh, God, you don't know who he is, do you? No. Ryven's wings buzzed with irritation. You didn't tell me his name. I don't know his name, the girl admitted. I call him Jack. Stop calling me that, said the man in black. You are trying my patience, girl. Riven's wings buzzed. All right, all right. Anita held up her hands in a soothing gesture. I can't believe you didn't know. She grinned and gestured dramatically at the man in black. Riven from Many Eggs, meet the lead dealer, killer of outlaws, savior of humans, and the fastest gun on the frontier. The man in black's eyes tightened in annoyance. He said nothing. Riven looked at the two of them. He seriously considered going home and punching his father in the head. You can't be serious. We get that a lot, Anita admitted. She picked up the remote and deactivated the privacy screen. Hey, Farlow, come here a second. The barkeep wandered over. What is it? Tell this guy who we are. Anita folded her arms. Dilt didn't tell you? Farlow's antenna stood straight up. He grabbed the remote from Anita and reactivated the privacy screen. That's the lead dealer. There's no such person, Riven informed him. It's him, Farlow insisted. I saw it with my own eyes. The man in black spoke. Who I am isn't important. Stop wasting our time, Riven. Riven's mandibles clacked. Anita turned to the man. I thought talking to clients was my job. Your job is to deal with things that I don't want to deal with, the man told her, which you failed to do. He turned to Riven. You're here because you need someone who can contact the human colonies in the frontier. I can do that. Now tell me about the syndicate. Farlow shook his head and laughed. Riven clacked his mandibles. It was possible this human was who Farlow said he was. He certainly looked the part. Either way, the man had a point. The syndicate is a multi-species confederation of organized crime. Very powerful, very connected. They usually don't come to the frontier. I know who they are, said the human. Get to the point. My people were uplifted by the Federal Union, said Riven. They made us sapient, but we weren't granted citizenship. They wanted us to be slaves, strong backs and a food source. We revolted some 20 revolutions ago. We lost. To them it was the bug hunt, but we call it the culling. Most of us that survived fled to the frontier. We're not slaves by default, Riven continued, but the syndicate makes a lot of money capturing and selling Zist. The problem is, there aren't many of us left in Fed space. The Hive Elders got word a few days ago that they're sending a force to the frontier. They're going to hit Many Eggs and take who they can. The Feds are helping them. The human grunted. What kind of force? Warships, said Riven. 3 of them. Olgon-class battle cruisers bought from the Feds. Each of them will have 20 smaller craft for landing operations and 2,000 syndicate operatives. They've got nullifiers and cutting-edge weaponry. They plan to strip Many Eggs first, then work their way through the frontier until they've enslaved as many as they can hold. Farlow's wife came back. She handed burritos to the humans. The man in black got a beer to go with his. The girl got some kind of fruit juice. Riven got his drink. The female Zist left. The man in black leaned forward. So that's what they've got. What do you got? Not enough. Riven shook his head. Many Eggs has a population of 8,000, but most of them are hatchlings. We have maybe 50 veterans, another few hundred Zits old enough to fight. If the other colonies pitch in, we might get 1,000 fighters. The nullifiers will make our guns useless, too. The human was silent for a moment. Any big guns? None that matter. Riven's antenna drooped. We have a few spaceships with weapons, but the Syndicate warships have in-volume armor. We can't even scratch them. The man in black bit into his burrito. After he swallowed, he asked, What makes you think the human colonies can help? I don't think they can. Riven said honestly. My hive leader insisted I come to you. All right. The human sipped his beer. In that case, what makes you think the human colonies would help if they could? They won't, said Riven. Why would they? Anita spoke up. You suck at this, Riven. I'm a soldier, Anita. Riven was going to need another drink. Maybe a lot of drinks. If the Hive leader wanted someone diplomatic, he shouldn't have sent me. You don't have to flatter us or anything, Anita told him. You just have to come up with a reason we should help you. I'm willing to pass on the message, the man in black added, but I'm not going to argue on your behalf. I ain't a diplomat either. If you want the colonies to step in, you'd best come up with something good. A good reason? Riven snorted. The Syndicate's worse than bandits. A lot worse, and a lot more dangerous. They're mostly after Zis right now, but they're already dabbling in human slaves. When they're done with us, you'll be next. It's a start. The man took another bite of his burrito. What else? What do you mean, what else? Riven demanded. The feds don't recognize your species either. It's only a matter of time before they do to you what they did to us. If you want the feds and the syndicate to stay out of the frontier, we have to make it more trouble than we're worth. The Zits can't do that alone, and neither can you. I don't think that's gonna work, Riven. Anita shook her head. If you want the colonies to help, you've got to make it worth the while. Do you guys have money? Supplies? Some, said Riven. Not much. If we had enough to hire an army, I would have led with that. It wouldn't matter anyway, said the man in black. We've got guns the nullifiers can't stop. But we don't have the numbers to defend your town. Even if we did, there's nothing stopping those warships from blowing all of us to hell. His tone was matter-of-fact. I'll pass on your message, but I wouldn't expect anything to come of it. Riven nodded. I figured. Dealt in his stupid human protocol. Riven sighed into his booze. I told the Hive leader this was a waste of time. Even if the humans came, none of us have the numbers or the technology to stop another culling. He twitched his antenna towards the human. Do I need to pay you for your time? No, said the human. I'm a gun hand. I'm not going to charge you for passing on a message. It's not like we need the money anyway, said Anita. Jack's got enough goodongs to buy this whole station. I told you to stop calling me that, Jack chided. And stop telling people what we have. You do, though. Anita squinted at the man. You've taken so much money off dead bandits we could start a bank. Not to mention all the spaceships. How come we don't call it quits and set ourselves up in style? A man needs something to do with his hands, said the human. Now shut up. He turned back to Riven. How long before the Syndicate gets here? 4 months. Riven finished his drink. They're on their way from the core worlds. I'd suggest you and your people get gone before they show up. The man in black finished his beer. There's nowhere for us to go. Riven stood. Thank you for your time, humans. When the colonies give their answer, you can pass it along through Farlow. He turned to go. Wait! Anita's shout made him reach for his guns. He turned to look at her. He noticed the other human had a lead thrower pointed in his direction. Riven took his hands off his weapons. Jack holstered his gun so fast Riven barely registered the movement. Both of you are dumb. The girl pointed at his chair. Sit down, Riven. Riven sat. Anita leaned forward, excited. You said they're coming from the core worlds, right? Yes, Riven replied. Jack's eyes narrowed. 4 months is a long trip. Anita noisily sipped her juice through a straw. What are the chances they're not going to stop along the way? Riven's antenna swiveled towards the girl. Stop? We can't fight warships, the girl continued. In volume armor and stuff, we can't protect your town in a fight. What we can do, Anita's smile was smug, is board their ships when they stop to refuel. Jack and I are good at that. We've done it a lot. Call me Jack one more time and you're fired, said the man in black. He leaned back, wiping a hand along his jaw. Might not be a bad idea, though. 1,000 of you and a couple thousand of us would be enough. Assuming we get the colonies to go along. That's easy, said Anita. The colonies are always bugging us to try and rent out our ships. If we tell them there's 2 battle cruisers and 40 more ships for the taking, they'll probably kiss our feet. There are 3 cruisers, Riven corrected. Yeah, Anita snarked. But you guys are gonna have to fight too. It's only fair you get one of them, right? Yeah. The man in black shot her a look. Anita swallowed. I mean, Mr. Lead Dealer, sir. The kid's right, the man in black decided. You find the syndicate's last stop and the colonies will pitch in. I think we can do that. Riven nodded slowly. A faint stirring of hope welled up within him. Huh, this might actually work. His antenna pointed at the man in black. Are you really the lead dealer? I don't care what you call me, the lead dealer told him. He frowned. As long as it's not Jack. The next 4 months were a logistical nightmare. The Hive Elders put Riven in charge of getting the Zits organized for the assault. The jerks. Riven had to coordinate with the humans, too. The human colonies had been leery of working with him, but their resistance caved once the lead dealer vouched for him. His word carried a lot of weight. The lead dealer didn't talk to the other humans much himself. He made Anita do it. Riven didn't think the humans would listen to a youngling without military training, but she spoke for the lead dealer, and that seemed to be enough. It helped that the lead dealer was providing most of the materials they needed. He sent 15 spacecraft to pick up Zits, and those spacecraft were filled with lead-thrower guns. When Riven had tried to express gratitude, the lead dealer had stopped him and said, "Don't thank me till you get the bill. I don't work for cheap." The Syndicate will be refueling at Benva Station, about 3 weeks spacelight from Many Eggs. Riven didn't know how Dilt got the information, and he didn't care. It was nearly all he could do to get their forces in place before the Syndicate arrived. Of course, getting there was only the start of the problems. Benva Station was not a friendly place. They wouldn't let any of Riven's ships dock. They started denying the human ships as well once they realized how many there were. The problem disappeared an hour after Riven talked to the lead dealer. The new voices at station control sounded suspiciously human. Riven decided not to ask. The Syndicate ships arrived on schedule. Riven didn't get to see them, but he knew what they would look like. 2-kilometer cylinders, bristling with guns. Their hulls were lined with lead. In volume armor was nearly indestructible, but it was also highly radioactive. The inner hull would be lead-lined as well. The ships were ugly, imposing, and impervious, just like the Fed itself. The Syndicate vessels had been docked for just over an hour when Riven got the comm. It was the lead dealer. All he said was, "Security station secure. I'm locking down comms. Go." Zits and humans spilled out of their ships, guns in hand. Station security might have been subdued, but they still needed to move quickly. If the Syndicate caught on before Riven's people boarded, the whole operation was a bust. The warships would pull away, and there wouldn't be a damn thing Riven could do about it. The attackers were split into 3 groups. Riven led one, the other 2 were led by humans. Not the lead dealer, different humans. They seemed competent enough. Each group had about 300 Zits and twice that many humans. Riven had his doubts about mixing humans and Zits on an operation, especially since they hadn't had time to drill or train together. The humans had more veterans than Riven, but most of their forces were untrained civilians. The whole op was going to be a mess. Riven sprinted into the bay that led to a warship's airlock. The airlock was guarded. 3 Phylaxians armed with pulse rifles. 2 hulking one-eyed Rondars. 1 Grotto. The Grotto might be a problem. It was a blue biped 3 meters tall and nearly as wide. Armor plates formed a thick carapace around the creature. Grottos were nearly as strong as the Zits, and their armor was resistant to small arms fire. Most weapons couldn't so much as scratch one. The Grotto reacted to Riven's presence with professional quickness. One hand brought up a plasma caster while the other spoke into a communicator. Neither action would do any good. The lead dealer was jamming all comms on the station, and he'd given Riven a nullifier. The Syndicate Grotto pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. Riven raised his lead throwers. The two in his lower hands were pistols. The one in his upper hands was a .50 caliber sniper rifle named Barrett. The sights on the weapons were useless to Riven's multifaceted eyes, but his cybernetics made up the difference. The Barrett boomed first, punching right through the Grotto and launching the pulped remains of its heart out of the hole in its back. Pistol fire dropped the other 5 in just a few seconds. Riven hadn't bothered to stop. He reached the airlock before the Grotto finished falling. There was no one on the other side of the airlock. Riven split off 30 people to guard it. He didn't want any Syndicate slavers getting away. There were 2 airlocks and 3 loading bays to deal with. Riven headed for the nearest at a brisk jog. Once he'd cut off all escape, he could go hunting. They started to run into resistance. Sort of. It was less organized attacks and more Syndicate goons wandering out to see what all the noise was. Riven was going to have his Zits use their braking sticks to conserve ammunition, but the humans gunned the goons down on sight, whooping and hollering, which attracted more goons, which they shot. Riven went out the next airlock and shot the people guarding it. He went back in, posted more humans, and moved on to the next. The process repeated smoothly at the next one. The loading bays were more of a problem, but not by much. There were a lot more Syndicate hard cases, and they'd heard Riven's strike group coming through. They didn't know he had a nullifier until it was too late. The goons found themselves unarmed against a much larger force. A few managed to escape out of the loading bay, but most just died. With the exits covered, Riven headed for the armory. Gunshots and hollering humans still drew the occasional gangster, but most of them were hiding or grouping up. The ship's captain was on the intercom, yelling that the ship was under attack and demanding that someone kill the intruders. Riven snorted. Amateur. Not that his own people were much better. Twice he had to stop folks from breaking into groups to go off on their own. The Syndicate outnumbered Riven's forces 3-1, and he only had the one nullifier. It was a miracle he had one at all. Apparently the lead dealer owned 4 of the things. The armory was empty. Well, empty of people. There were a lot of guns. It was a very defensible position, so Riven left 20 people and moved on. The bridge was next. The bridge was barricaded. Someone had welded the door shut. Riven turned off his nullifier and pulled out a plasma caster. It wouldn't activate. Someone on the bridge had a nullifier of their own. Unfortunate, but not unexpected. He turned his nullifier back on. A pair of humans placed shaped charges on the door. Everyone cleared out while the timers wound down. The explosion rang Riven's eardrums through his hearing protection. He charged anyway, finding the bridge doors had been blown open. There were a lot of people on the bridge pointing guns at him. There was a lot of shouting when they realized their guns didn't work. Lead throwers thundered. Bandits died. Riven had asked his people not to shoot the captain, but several of them were shooting him anyway. The captain was a Grotto noble. His armored carapace was engraved with gold and glowing sigils. Bullets sparked off his armor at first, but one of the humans unloaded a shotgun full of sabot rounds at the creature. The captain fell, armor full of holes. Riven had to yell for several seconds to get everyone to cease fire. To Riven's mild relief, the Syndicate captain was alive. He had 5 sizable holes in his carapace, but Grottos were tough. Riven's cybernetics told him the captain would live as long as he got medical attention in the next few hours.
"You stupid lunkers," the captain spat. "Oh, do you know who you're messing with?"
"We do," said Riven. The captain wasn't referring to the Syndicate. Grotto nobles were very entitled and very vengeful. If you killed a noble, you could expect strike teams and assassins to hunt you for the rest of your short life. Not that this one's family would be able to find out who killed him.
Then you know what happens next.
The Grotto noble growled.
My family will...
Spare me your threats. Your family won't need to avenge you. Riven squatted next to the noble. We're letting you live. You're going to deliver a message to the Syndicate.
Are you out of your mind, Lunker?
The noble growled.
What makes you think...
Riven brought 2 of his breaking sticks down on the Grotto's knee. The Grotto hollered. As I was saying, you're going to deliver a message to the Syndicate.
You stupid bug!
The Grotto started. Riven raised his breaking sticks again.
Stop! I'll tell them for scat's sake.
The noble's glower was full of hate.
Not that it matters. The Syndicate's gonna hunt you all down.
We'll see. Riven leaned over the Grotto. The first is a message from my hive leader. He says stay away from the frontier. If the Syndicate comes back, they won't just face the Zits. The hives will unleash the humans.
Unleash the humans?
The Grotto snorted.
That's stupid.
The second message is from the lead dealer. The Grotto froze. Ah, so you already know he's real. Riven lowered his voice in a conspiratorial whisper. I didn't at first.
What's the message?
The noble demanded. It's a question, Riven told him. He pulled out a recording device. The lead dealer's voice came out, cold as the void. Are you sure that's how you want to play this? The human doesn't talk much, Riven confided, but I wouldn't take him lightly. Be very sure of that. He pointed at 2 of his Zits. You 2, toss this lunker off the ship. I want another 40 of you to keep this bridge secure. He sheathed his breaking sticks and took up his rifle. The rest of you are with me. We're going hunting.